The forest was quiet that morning, too quiet for a village that usually woke with the sound of drums, goats, and children chasing each other between the mud houses. The elders felt it first, an invisible heaviness moving in the air like a shadow sliding across the ground. No one spoke about it, but everyone sensed something was coming. Callow, a young hunter, returned from the river with his breath shaking in his chest. His eyes kept turning toward the northern path, the one nobody walked unless they wanted trouble. He went straight to the chief's compound. When he arrived, a circle of elders was already sitting under the big baobab tree, as if they had been waiting for him. "I saw dust," Callow said, his voice low. "Not from cattle, from marching, many legs, and horses." The women listening nearby instantly pressed their hands against their hearts. Men exchanged tight looks. They all knew what that meant. The slave raiders had been moving deeper into the region, burning villages, stealing men, women, and even children. Some settlements had simply vanished overnight, houses empty, fires still warm, footprints leading into the forest and never returning. But no one expected them to come here. Chief Bemba rose slowly. He was old, but his presence felt larger than the tree behind him. "Did they see you, Callow?" "No," the hunter answered. "I hid in the tall grass. They were still far, but close enough." Murmurs spread through the crowd like wind through leaves. Mothers pulled their children closer. Old men shook their heads in fear. Even the strongest warriors avoided each other's eyes. No one in that village had ever faced a slave army before. All at once, an elderly woman named Mama Sira stepped forward. Her back was bent, her hair silver, but her voice cut through the air like a blade. "Listen to me," she said firmly. "If they come here, they will take everything. Our sons, our daughters, our ancestors' land, everything. We cannot run, we cannot hide. This village must stand." Her words stunned the crowd. Mama Sira rarely spoke in gatherings, but when she did, everyone listened. She lifted her hand and pointed at the little ones gathered behind their mothers. "Look at their faces. If we surrender, their names will disappear from the world. If we fight, even if we fall, our story will live." A long silence followed. Kalo stepped forward again. "We cannot face them with empty hands. The raiders carry guns. We have spears." "No," said Mama Sira. "We have more than spears." She walked toward her small clay hut and pushed aside the curtain. Inside, wrapped in red cloth and tied with cowrie shells, was an object no one had seen in many years. When she brought it into the sunlight, some people gasped, others bowed. It was the drum of the first ancestor, a sacred drum, older than any man alive. It was said that when the drum was beaten, the ancestors would rise to protect their children. Chief Bemba cleared his throat, struggling to keep his voice steady. "That drum has not been touched in 3 generations, and that is why it is time," Mama Sira replied. The warriors gathered around her. The women drew closer. Even the children sensed something powerful. She placed her palm on the drum and closed her eyes. "If we must fight," she whispered, "then let the ancestors fight with us." A deep, trembling sound filled the air as her hand struck the drum once, only once, but it echoed across the entire village, across the forest, across the path where the slave army marched. Everyone felt the ground shiver beneath their feet. Callow stared into the trees, his heart pounding. "They're coming," he said. And in that moment, the small village knew their lives would never be the same. That night, no one slept. The moon hung low over the village like a watchful eye, and every shadow felt alive. Mothers whispered prayers while sharpening knives. Old men tied leather charms around the wrists of young warriors, chanting the names of ancestors long forgotten by the outside world. Kalo stood near the northern edge of the village with a spear in his hand. His fingers kept trembling, and he hated that. Warriors were not supposed to shake. But the truth was simple. He had never seen a gun. He had never seen a man stolen from his own land in chains. He had only heard stories, terrible stories, whispered across fires at night. Mama Sira approached him quietly, leaning on her wooden staff. "Do not fear what you have not yet faced," she said. "I am not afraid," Callow replied. Though his voice betrayed him, she raised one eyebrow. "Then why is your spear shaking like a leaf in the rainy season?" Callow sighed and lowered his head. "Because they have taken so many villages, Because guns speak louder than courage. Mama Sira placed her wrinkled hand on his shoulder. Guns are only metal. Courage lives in blood, and blood remembers. If you... At those words, she turned and walked back toward the center of the village. Callow watched her go, feeling something warm steadying his heart. Near the large fire, Chief Bemba gathered the villagers. "Everyone listen," he said, raising his staff. "The raiders will not attack in silence. Their drums will beat first. That is how they frighten villages before striking." The villagers murmured nervously. "But tonight," Bemba continued, "they will hear our drum." Mama Sira stepped forward with the sacred drum of the first ancestor strapped across her back. She moved slowly, deliberately, as if each step connected her to the spirits beneath the earth. When she stood at the center of the village, she lifted the drum and placed it gently on the ground. Every villager knelt. Even the wind seemed to stop moving. Mama Sira closed her eyes and raised both hands. When she struck the drum, the sound did not echo it, rolled across the land, deep and thunderous, as if the earth itself was speaking. Children pressed their hands to their ears. Warriors felt their chests vibrate. The fire swayed as if bowing, and somewhere far away, deep in the forest, the slave raiders stopped marching. The leader of the raiders, a tall man with a long beard and a coat decorated with stolen gold buttons, frowned. What was that? One of his armed men swallowed nervously. "A drum, sir. No ordinary drum," another whispered. It sounded like thunder. The leader clicked his tongue and motioned forward. "Thunder doesn't scare me. Move!" But as they marched again, strange things began to happen. The forest grew darker even though the moon was full. Mist rose from the ground, curling around their feet. Their torches flickered violently, as if something unseen blew on them. A horse refused to move, then another. The raiders cursed and pulled on the reins, but the animals trembled and backed away. "What is wrong with them?" the leader demanded. The men exchanged frightened looks. Back in the village, Mama Sira struck the drum again, this time softer but sharper, like a heartbeat calling other heartbeats awake. The ground trembled. Chief Bemba turned to the villagers. "Stand together. No one breaks the circle tonight. The ancestors are here." Kalo felt a chill run down his spine. It wasn't fear, it was something else. A strength he didn't understand. A strength older than him, older than the forest, older than slavery itself. He looked at the northern path. The mist was moving, slowly, silently, as if carrying something, or someone. The first shadow of the raiders appeared at the edge of the trees. Kalo gripped his spear. "Everyone," he whispered. "They're here." The first raider stepped out of the mist like a ghost, tall, armed, and confident. He carried a long rifle on his shoulder and a machete at his waist. Behind him, more shadows appeared, their boots hitting the earth with heavy thuds. But something was wrong. They were moving slower than before, as if the forest itself resisted their steps. Kalo felt his chest tighten. He had imagined this moment many times, but the real thing was far heavier than any dream. His fingers tightened around his spear until his knuckles turned pale. Chief Bemba raised his hand quietly. "Wait," he whispered. "Do not attack yet." The villagers held their breath. Mama Sira's hand rested lightly on the sacred drum. Her eyes were half closed, fixed not on the raiders but on something else, something far beyond them. The raider leader stepped forward. He looked around the village with bold arrogance, like a man choosing which house to burn first. "You," he shouted. "Who among you speaks?" Chief Bemba raised his staff. "I speak for this village." The leader's face twisted into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Then listen well. We take strong men, young women, and children. We take what we want. You will stand aside." A gasp spread through the villagers. A few young men reached for their spears, ready to fight, but Bemba lifted his hand again. "And if we refuse?" the chief asked. The leader shrugged. "Then you die." For a moment, silence hung over the entire village. Even the wind seemed afraid to move. Then Mama Sira slowly rose to her feet. "Leave," she said quietly. Some of the raiders laughed, but the leader didn't. Something in her voice made his skin prickle. "You dare command me?" he growled. She pointed at the ground beneath his boots. "This is not your land. These spirits are not your spirits. You walk among the bones of our ancestors, and they do not sleep tonight." The leader scoffed, but one of his men tugged his sleeve. "Sir, The horses won't come any closer. They can feel something. The leader pulled his sleeve away angrily. Enough of your nonsense. He lifted his rifle and aimed it at Mama Sira. Callow stepped forward without thinking. No, he shouted, but Mama Sira didn't flinch. Instead, she lifted her drumstick. 1 heartbeat. 2. She struck the drum. The sound ripped through the village like a wave, deep, ancient, alive. Torches flickered. The raiders staggered. Even the earth seemed to shift under their feet. And then the unexpected happened. The trees behind the raiders moved, not from wind but from shape. Dozens of shadows stepped out from within the forest, tall and silent. Their skin was painted in ash and red clay. They carried bows, spears, and blades carved from stone. Their eyes glowed with something fierce, something impossible. Kalo felt his body go cold. Are those men? He whispered. Chief Bemba swallowed hard. Not men. These are the Guardians. The Guardians' warriors said to protect the village in times of great danger. But everyone believed they were only stories told around the fire to frighten children. Yet here they were, alive. The raider leader stumbled backward, pointing his gun at the nearest Guardian. Stay back, he shouted, but his voice trembled. One of the Guardians raised a spear and slammed its butt into the ground. The noise echoed like thunder. The raiders' torches extinguished instantly, plunging the entire edge of the village into darkness. Panic exploded. Fall back, one raider screamed. What are they? Another cried. Demons. We must leave. But the leader refused to retreat. Stand your ground, he roared. He fired his rifle. The shot cracked like lightning. Kalo covered his ears, but the bullet never reached its target. A Guardian moved faster than sight, catching the bullet in his palm and letting it fall harmlessly to the ground. The leader's face turned white. For the first time in his life, he understood fear. Mama Sira struck the drum again, softly, slowly, as if guiding the spirits themselves. The Guardians stepped forward, and the village prepared for a night that would be remembered for generations. The moment the bullet dropped from the Guardian's hand, the world seemed to hold its breath. Even the raiders stopped moving. For the first time, they understood they were facing something far beyond human strength. The mist thickened around their legs, as if the earth itself refused to let them escape. Chief Bemba stepped forward, planting his staff firmly in the ground. You were warned, he said. His voice was calm, but it carried a weight that made every villager stand taller. You walk where you should not walk. The leader's bravado crumbled. His rifle shook in his hands. Who are these things? Mama Sira opened her eyes fully for the first time that night. These are the spirits of those who stood before us, she said. Warriors who died protecting this land. You cannot threaten what is already dead. At those words, the Guardians advanced. The raiders stumbled back in terror. One tripped over a root and dropped his gun. Another tried to load his weapon, but his hands shook too violently. The leader gritted his teeth and screamed, Fire! Fire at anything! But when the raiders lifted their rifles, the mist suddenly coiled around their arms, pulling their aim off target. Bullets fired into empty air, striking only the trees. The forest responded with a loud groan, as if alive and displeased. The villagers stayed behind the circle, watching with wide, fearful eyes. They had never seen the Guardians, had never believed such ancient protectors still existed. Mama Sira had told stories of them spirits who rose when a village faced doom, but no one imagined those stories were literal. Kalo held his spear tight, fighting the urge to charge in, even though he knew he wouldn't be fighting alone. His heart hammered so loudly, he felt it in his throat. Chief, he whispered, should we join them? Chief Bemba shook his head. Not yet. Let the ancestors speak first. The leader of the raiders tried one last time to rally his men. Stand and fight, he shouted, but the Guardians moved as a single silent wave, smooth, fast, unstoppable. One Guardian raised a long, curved blade and cut through the air, not at flesh, but at the ground. The earth cracked open, creating a small trench between the raiders and the village. Flames rose from the crack for a heartbeat, then faded into smoke. The raiders screamed, Witchcraft! Monsters! We must leave! Run for your life! The leader slapped one of his men. Cowards! They are tricks! Nothing more! But even he didn't believe his own words. Sweat poured down his face as he backed away step by step. Mama Sira struck the drum again. This time, the sound did not echo. It vibrated. The fire in the center of the village suddenly flared, rising taller than a man. The villagers gasped, backing away as sparks spiraled upward like tiny fire spirits dancing in the dark. The guardians stopped moving. They all turned their heads toward the village fire toward Mama Sira. The old woman lifted her hand. "Ancestors," she whispered. "Protect us." The flame twisted into a tall shape, almost like a figure standing upright. A hot wind blew outward, causing the raiders' clothes to flap wildly. The leader shielded his face, stumbling back. "What are you people?" he cried. Mama Sira looked directly at him. "We are the children of those you tried to erase, and we do not forget." When the leader tried to retreat into the forest, he found the path behind him blocked not by warriors, but by roots. Thick, gnarled roots twisted across the ground, forming a barrier that hadn't been there moments earlier. He stared in disbelief. No. This cannot. The roots grew taller. The forest closed behind him. He was trapped. Chief Bemba finally raised his staff high. "Now!" he shouted. The villagers roared as they charged forward, men, women, even elder boys, holding spears, knives, farming tools, anything they could use. Kahlo sprinted ahead, his spear lowered as he aimed for the nearest raider. The guardians moved with them, silent shadows guiding the villagers, but never striking first, as if their purpose was protection, not destruction. Chaos erupted. Kahlo's spear struck the ground beside a raider, who dodged at the last moment. The man swung a machete, but Kahlo parried with the spear's wooden shaft. The shock rattled his arms, but he did not back down. The raider snarled. "You think you can fight me, boy?" Kahlo's breath shivered, but he gritted his teeth. "I don't fight alone." Behind him, a guardian stepped forward. The raider froze his eyes wide. The guardian towered over him, his ash-painted body glowing faintly in the moonlight. With no other choice, the raider dropped his machete and fled into the forest, straight into the wall of roots, which closed around him like a cage. The leader looked around desperately. His men were falling, surrendering, or running aimlessly. The villagers moved with courage he had never expected. Every time he tried to raise his rifle, a guardian appeared behind him, forcing him to drop it. Panting, shaking, terrified, he shouted, "Stop! Stop! I surrender. Take whatever you want, just let me go." But Mama Sira stepped forward, her drum hanging at her side. "You came to take our sons," she said. "Our daughters. Our freedom." She raised her chin. "There is nothing here for you to take." The leader dropped to his knees. The mist thickened around him, as if answering a silent command. And the ancestors watched, waiting for the village to decide his fate. The leader knelt in the dirt, trembling so badly his hands rattled against his own knees. Sweat dripped down his face, mixing with the dust, making him look smaller, weaker, almost childlike. Around him, the raiders who weren't already restrained or trapped by the forest dropped their weapons. Some cried. Some prayed in languages the villagers didn't understand. Others simply sat down, defeated, staring at the guardians as if they were looking at death itself. The villagers formed a circle around the invaders. Mothers who had once hidden behind their doors now stood tall with knives in their hands. Young warriors who had once doubted their strength now roared with the thunder of victory burning inside them. But the most powerful figure in the circle was Mama Sira. She walked slowly toward the leader, each step measured and heavy. Her drum made a small sound with each sway at her side, a sound that made the mist curl around her feet like obedient spirits. The leader swallowed hard. "Please, don't kill me," he whispered. Mama Sira didn't respond. She simply stared at him, her eyes deep and ancient, as if she could see through flesh, bone, and fear straight into his soul. Chief Bemba approached from the other side. "You came with fire," he said. "You came with chains. You came to destroy us." The leader lowered his head, his voice shaking. I was given orders, and we were given ancestors," Bemba replied. A murmur of agreement rippled through the villagers. One of the raiders began to shout angrily, "We did nothing wrong! We were—" A guardian turned its head toward him. Just a turn. No movement. No threat. Yet the raider's voice died instantly in his throat. He fell silent, trembling, unable to look away from the glowing, ash-painted warrior. Mama Sira finally spoke. This village does not kill without reason, but forgiveness is not something we offer freely. The leader looked up with a spark of desperate hope. I will leave. I will never return here. I swear it on my life. Mama Sira leaned on her staff. Your life is not the only life you must swear on. The leader's breath caught. What? What do you mean? She lifted her hand and pointed behind him, toward the path that led deeper into the forest. All the villages you burned, she said. All the people you took. All the children who woke in chains. Their spirits follow you. The leader glanced back nervously. The mist thickened into shapes behind him. Thin figures with hollow eyes, shadows of the people stolen. Whispers floated through the air, not loud, but enough. A cold tear ran down the leader's cheek. Please, he whispered, tell me what you want. Mama Sira stepped forward, raising the drumstick so slowly it seemed the whole world moved with her. She tapped the drum once soft, but firm. The guardians straightened. The mist lifted slightly. The villagers leaned closer. Mama Sira's voice dropped to a whisper that felt like thunder. You must lead your men away and never return. Not to this village, not to any village. You will walk until the ancestors decide you have walked enough. The leader nodded quickly, almost too quickly. Yes, I agree. But Mama Sira wasn't finished. If you ever step toward our land again, she continued, the ancestors will not warn you. They will take you. The leader's heart nearly burst from his chest. I understand. Chief Bemba stepped closer, lowering his staff so that its carved tip hovered above the leader's forehead. Look at me. The leader lifted his eyes. Bemba spoke with the weight of every warrior who had ever lived in that village. You leave as a man without honor, a man who lost to those he considered weak. Let this shame follow you like a shadow. The villagers hummed in agreement. Mama Sira struck the drum again. This time, the sound was soft, gentle, almost peaceful. The mist around the guardians faded. The glowing bodies dimmed. One by one, the ancient warriors stepped back into the forest, disappearing among the trees like smoke swallowed by darkness. A soft wind blew. The raiders felt the roots behind them loosen, opening a narrow path. Mama Sira pointed toward it. Go! Slowly, stumbling, terrified, the raiders gathered their wounded and disappeared down the path. Some looked back, their faces pale. Others kept their eyes forward, too afraid to turn around. The leader was the last to leave. Before stepping into the forest, he whispered, Thank you for sparing me. Mama Sira did not answer. She turned her back on him. For her, the moment he crossed that boundary, he no longer existed. When the last raider vanished and the forest closed again, the villagers remained silent. Chief Bemba exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. It is done, he said softly, but Mama Sira shook her head. Her face grew solemn. No, she whispered. It is not done. The villagers froze. Callow stepped forward. What do you mean? Mama Sira turned her eyes toward the northern path, the same path the raiders had taken. Something followed them, she said. Something that did not belong to us. And it will return. The villagers stared at Mama Sira, fear rising again like a tide they thought had already passed. The fire crackled softly in the center of the village, but even its warmth could not chase away the chill that crept up everyone's spine. Kalo stepped closer, gripping his spear. Mama Sira, what followed them? She did not answer at first. Instead, she walked slowly toward the northern path, her feet silent on the dirt. The villagers followed behind her, forming a wide circle. The night air felt colder now, heavier, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Chief Bemba approached her side. Speak to us, he murmured. The people are frightened. Mama Sira lifted her staff and pointed into the darkness. When the raiders entered the forest, she said softly, something woke up. Something old. Something that has been asleep for many generations. The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. Callow swallowed hard. Are you talking about another spirit? Mama Sira shook her head. Not a spirit. A curse. The crowd gasped. Long ago, she continued, before any of you were born, this land was protected by the guardians. But there was one warrior, the strongest of them all, whose soul was poisoned by anger. He wanted revenge on every outsider, every stranger, every person not born in this village. She paused, her eyes narrowing. When he died, the ancestors did not accept him. His heart was too full of hate. They trapped him deep in the forest, sealed away by mist and silence. A young mother trembled and hugged her child closer. And now he is awake? Mama Sira nodded. The sound of battle, the fear of the raiders, the shaking of the ground, all of it stirred him. Chief Bemba gripped his staff tighter. If this fallen guardian hates outsiders, why is he coming here? We are not outsiders. Mama Sira turned her eyes toward the villagers, her expression unreadable. Because something happened tonight that has never happened before. The villagers leaned forward. For the first time in many generations, the ancestors took form. The guardians stepped into the living world. They stretched out their hands. They protected us. Callow frowned. But that is good. Rexid. Yes, Mama Sira said. But every act of the ancestors has a price. The fire crackled louder, sending sparks into the air. When the ancestors came, she explained, they created a path between the world of the living and the world of the forgotten. And when that path opened, the fallen guardian escaped. A wave of murmurs swept the crowd. He followed the raiders into the forest, Mama Sira said, but he will find no satisfaction with them. His anger is not about what they did. It is about the world changing. New voices, new villages, new blood. She lifted her chin. When he realizes the raiders cannot feed his rage, he will turn back, and he will come here. The villagers tensed. Some lifted their spears. Others stepped forward protectively in front of children. Callow felt his heart pound painfully in his chest. If he is stronger than the other guardians, how can we fight him? Mama Sira closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again, filled with determination. We will not fight him with strength, she said. We will fight him with memory. Chief Bemba frowned. Memory? Yes, she answered. He was one of us once, a warrior of this village, a child born under this sky. If he returns, he must be reminded of who he was, not what he became. Kalow's breathing eased slightly. So we speak to him? We show him he belongs here? Mama Sira shook her head slowly. No, he will not listen to words. She pointed at the sacred drum of the first ancestor. He will listen to this. The villagers stared at the drum with awe and fear. But, Chief Bemba whispered, the drum can only be used for protection, to call the ancestors, to warn the village. Mama Sira stepped forward and placed her hand on the drum's old leather surface. That is what the stories say, she replied. But the truth is deeper than the stories. The drum does not just call ancestors, it calls memory itself. Callow stepped forward. What must we do? Mama Sira motioned for the villagers to form a wide circle around her. The firelight flickered across their faces, faces marked with fear, courage, exhaustion, and hope. She lifted the drum and held it tightly. When the fallen guardian returns, she said, I will strike the drum one final time, and when I do, every ancestor, every story, every name carved into the bones of this land will rise. Her voice grew stronger. They will not rise to fight him. The villagers waited. They will rise to remind him. Chief Bemba's eyes widened. You mean they will show him who he was? Mama Sira nodded. The fallen guardian is not our enemy. He is our child. Our blood. Our grief. We will not destroy him. We will save him. The villagers absorbed her words, slowly lowering their weapons. And when he remembers, she finished softly, he will return to the earth willingly. A long silence followed. Then, far in the forest, deeper than any human step, a faint sound echoed. A low, heavy growl. The villagers froze. Callow's skin prickled. The children hid behind their mothers. Even Chief Bemba inhaled sharply. Mama Sira lifted the drum, her voice steady. He is returning. She stepped forward, placing herself at the very front of the group. Stay behind me. Another growl echoed. Closer. Deeper. The trees swayed as something massive moved between them. Callow whispered, Mama Sira. Are you afraid? She smiled gently. My child. Fear is the price of love. The forest fell silent. Then, with a single breath of wind, the shadows parted, and the fallen guardian stepped into the moonlight,